Hey guys, welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different than normal, and that is the future. So this pyramid is really good for prospects, so you avoid those useless comments about how number 4 should be higher or how number 6 should be lower. Instead, you just rank them among their skill into tiers. You know, tier 1, there's tier 2, there's 6 tiers. So I'm just going to show you my list today, and hopefully guys you can agree with it, or you can just comment your own in the comments. All right, starting with tier 1, we have no one, and you guys are probably wondering, what does that mean? What, we don't have any good prospects? What's going on here? Well, no. Well, based off of Steve Dangle's explanation here, tier 1 is only for the elite prospects like Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, kind of like the franchise players. And obviously the Penguins don't have anyone like that in the system. So now let's just move on to tier 2, where we do have a couple of prospects, and that is Sprong and Addison. I think Daniel Sprong will be a solid top 6 forward. I think he'll score consistently 30 goals in this league if he's given the chance to play. If not 30, I think he'll get 20 for sure. 30 is a bit of a stretch, but I think if he's given the chance, that shot alone is really scary. He can easily score 30, I think. Playing him with Crosby or Malkin, he can score 30, but alone, I believe he can score 20 for sure. And as for Addison, I think he'll be a really good defenseman for us. We haven't had a defenseman like this in the system in a long time. And I have no idea how he fell into the second round. He should have been a first-round pick, but the Penguins somehow got him. Just like Daniel Sprong should have been a first-round pick, but somehow got him early in the second round. So I think Addison will be a solid defenseman. Two-way guy. I think he's a little bit further away for the NHL, and that's not really a bad thing for him. Usually defensemen aren't ready at 18 years old. I think we should go return him to the WHL, let him play a bigger role, build confidence, and then I think he should be ready in 2 to 3 years, and he'll be a solid defenseman for us. I'm thinking a solid number 3, number 4, second pair guy, maybe even top pair. All right, so here's tier 3. We have Jarry, Bellerive, Hallander, Drozg, Aston Reese, Almeida, Miletic, and Johnson. All right, so let's start with the 2 NHLers on this list, Zach Aston Reese and Tristan Jarry. So you guys are probably wondering, aren't they NHLers? They played, well, yes, but I still have them as prospects because Jarry was bouncing through the AHL and NHL, and Zach Aston Reese still hasn't found himself in the NHL. He hasn't played enough games to consider as an actual NHLer. I think for both of these guys, this is the year that they graduate into the from prospect to NHL player. But for now, we just need to see a little bit more from them, and I think we will see a little bit more from them this year. Now let's get into the other guys that aren't in the NHL. Bellerive is a 19-year-old player who got 92 points in 71 WHL games. He went undrafted last year, so the Penguins signed him as an undrafted free agent. Actually, a little fun fact here, out of all these 8 players that I have in tier 3, the Penguins only drafted 4 of them and signed the other 4. And that's why I'm fine with the Penguins trading their draft picks, because I know they're so good at signing these top prospects in the summertime. So to wrap up tier 3, I think Tristan Jarry and Zach Aston Reese have pretty much made the team. I think Jordy Bellerive is the one with the highest potential, and the one who's the closest to the NHL is, I'll say, Adam Johnson. And for the guys that I didn't mention yet, which is Hallander, Drozg, Almeida, and Miletic, I think those guys are going to be great players too. It's just that they're a little further away from the NHL. Not because they're not good enough, but just because they're too young. They're all under 21 years of age. So from the guys that I didn't mention. So I think they'll be great, but we still need at least another 2-3 years of seeing them develop. And then I think once they're 23, 24, that's where they're going to make their impact in the NHL. All right, so on to tier 4, we have Teddy Bluger, Clayton Phillips, Zachary Lawson, Tobias Lindberg, Kasper Bjorkqvist, Linus Oland, Sam Lafferty, and Antti Paulujärvi. Out of this group of players, I think Teddy Bluger is by far the most NHL-ready player right now. He is 24 years of age. I thought he should have made the team last year when we had no centers. We had McKegg and Carter Rowney as our 3 and 4. I think he should have beat out McKegg for that spot, but McKegg had the NHL experience on him, so that's why he won that 3 spot. But I'm really impressed in Teddy Bluger because after not making the team, he didn't let that get to him. He went down for his sophomore AHL season, and he got, after putting up 31 points in his rookie year, he put 45 points, 21 goals in 70 games, a big improvement over his first year. And obviously him being really close to making the NHL team last year, you would think that he's for sure going to make it this year. But I don't think so, and that's because the Penguins are stacked this year. They already have Matt Cullen, who's the 5th center, who I think will be on wing, or they might move Brassard to wing and then put Cullen at 4C. I just don't think Bluger, not because he's not good enough, I don't see him making it out of camp, but I do see him getting some NHL time for sure. I see him coming in with the injuries. I think he'll be the first guy to come up if there's a center injury. I think Bluger definitely deserves that chance, And I think when he does get that chance, he will definitely run with it. I think it'll be tough to send him back down. After Teddy Bluger, I would have to say the next closest NHL-ready player on this list in Tier 4, I would say is Tobias Lindberg. Lindberg has actually had tremendous success in the OHL, putting up 78 points in 67 games. Then he went to the AHL and put up 22 points in 34 games in a rookie AHL season. Really good. And then he put up 12 points in 22 games. Again, pretty good. Then he put up 2 assists in 6 NHL games. Also was not a plus player, but he wasn't a minus. And don't forget, that was the Toronto Maple Leafs team that had no Phil Kessel and didn't have Austin Matthews. That was the tanking for Austin Matthews Toronto Maple Leafs team. So not being a minus on that team is a kind of a positive. So I guess we have that. And then we have he put up 16 points in 44 games and then 23 points in 64 AHL games. That's all in the AHL. Tobias Lindberg is a really interesting player because he hasn't been able to make the NHL. He's only played those 6 games, and from there he just could not make the NHL. So I think he still has potential. At being 23 years of age, he still could be an NHL player, but I think teams are just giving up on him. Similar to Justin Schultz. He's just the forward version. And I think similar to Justin Schultz, the Penguins jumped on that as soon as they could, and I think they believe in him. I believe in him too. I think Lindberg could be a solid future NHL player. All right, now that we crossed out Bluger and Lindberg from this, I think both of those players can be NHL players this year. I think they will both see NHL time. But as for these others guys, Phillips, Lawson, Bjorkqvist, Oland, and Lafferty, and Puljujarvi, Clayton Phillips and Zachary Lawson are 2 defensemen the Penguins drafted last year. I think they're both going to be bottom pair guys. Clayton Phillips, to me, has more upside. He's an offensive puck-moving defenseman. That fits our system. Zachary Lawson, though, has a lot of hype around him because he did win the Defenseman of the Year award in the QMJHL during his draft year. But honestly, I think the fans may overrate him a little bit. I think he'll be a solid defensive player. In my opinion, I see him as a solid bottom pair guy, number 5, number 6. But I think that's all we get from him. But at the end of the day, that's not bad. I think when you draft a player from a draft, unless he's a first-round pick, I think other than a first-round pick, if they make the NHL, it's a win. Unless it's a first-round pick, because then the expectations are higher there. But if it's a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th-round pick, I think the expectation is just make the NHL, and it's a good pick. So for Zachary Lawson, I think he could make the NHL. I would say he's 3, maybe 4 years away from being a solid bottom-pair guy. And as for Clayton Phillips, same thing. But the only thing for him is he has a better chance of making it because he fits the system more. Antti Puljujarvi is also another defenseman the Penguins drafted in last year's draft. I think the thing is with him, I think he's more of a long-term project here. He's 19 years old, so he still has a lot of years left to grow and be a better defenseman. But I think he's good offensively, but he's pretty much bad at everything else. I mean, I don't want to say that, but defensively he's weak. He's small. He gets knocked off the puck easily. There's a lot of holes in his games that he needs to fix, and if he fixes these holes, I think he could be a solid NHL-ready defenseman. I just don't think it's gonna come. I don't think it's gonna come anytime soon. Next up, we have Kasper Bjorkqvist, who's a 21-year-old second-round pick from 2 years ago. I think he'll be a solid third-line player for us. Nothing really more. He may maybe surprise us and be a second-liner, but I doubt it. His game is more like he's built for the bottom 6. Really good defensively. Not too bad offensively. I think you can trust him. I think he's a solid penalty killer. Trust him in your own zone. You'll put him on the ice at the final minute of the game to save the lead. I don't think you'll put him on the ice to give you a goal in the final minute, but I think you're definitely putting him on the ice to protect the lead at the end of the game. Linus Oland is another guy who I think could be a solid 4th-line center for us, maybe even a 3rd-line center 2-3 years down the line because he's really good defensively, really good at faceoffs, and that gets you a long way in the NHL. And his offense isn't that bad. If I had to give him something to work on, I'd say his offense. But defensively, he's all there, and faceoffs. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's the team's 4th-line center next year because looking at our team, Cullen will probably retire. Sheahan, I don't see coming back next year because he has 1 year left. Same with Brassard. So Penguins are going to need some youth to come into the lineup, and I do think Linus Oland could be that 4th-line center. He's actually playing his rookie year this year with Wilkes-Barre, so I'm really interested to see what he's going to do this year. He spent his career playing in Sweden with older guys. He was a kid playing with men, so he's used to this. So I think his transition will be a little bit easier than the average OHLer that comes to the AHL who plays with 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and now he's playing with a bunch of men. I think Linus Oland will have an easier time because he's been playing with men throughout his whole career. I just realized that sounded very wrong, but you guys get what I mean. And then the final player we have in Tier 4 is Sam Lafferty. He had a solid college career. Through 4 seasons, in 124 games, he got 79 points. So he's an interesting player to look out for because he's going to be playing his rookie year in the AHL this year. But like Linus Olin, only thing is Linus Olin is 21. So he has years to develop down there in the AHL before he comes up. Sam Lafferty is 23. He's 2 years older, and he needs to come into the AHL. I think he needs to prove himself that he's a solid player. I think this is his prove-it year, being 23. I think 24 next year in his sophomore AHL season is when the Penguins will be looking at him for an NHL spot. Like I said, they're going to be needing some youth because they're going to lose some depth this year. So they're going to need these guys to step up. So I think he's a guy the Penguins will be looking at, I think. And the best part about Sam Lafferty is that he can play center or wing. So that, I think, gives him an edge over everyone else because he can do both. So you need a winger, you call him up. You need a center, I think he can do the job too. All right, on to Tier 5. We have Jeff Taylor, Will Riley, Anthony Angelo, Freddie Tiffels, Nikita Pavlichev, Ryan Jones, Dane Burks, Nicholas Almari, Thomas DePauli, JSD, and Juuso Ricola. The player who I think is the closest to the NHL in this little group here is, I think, JSD. He put up 50 points in 70 AHL games last year. He's definitely proving an NHL call-up. I think we just have to wait until some injuries, and I think he'll be one of the first ones up. He's very, very fast. I think he fits the system perfectly, honestly. And little fun fact, he is good friends with Chris Letang. They train together every summer now for a couple years. I doubt that gives him anything over for the coaches. I don't think the coaches are going to look at him any way different because he's friends. I'm just noting that little fun fact. But back onto this list, honestly, I think other than JSD, I think he's the only closest one to the NHL. And from there, I think it's a big fall off. Not saying these guys aren't good. I think they could be NHLers, but it's really far away. Moving on to Will Riley, another defenseman, puck-moving guy, put up 15 points in 35 games in his rookie college season and then put up 13 points in 37 games. He's going to be going into his 3rd college year this year, so him being 21, he has room to grow. Unlike Jeff Taylor, he still has around 3-4 years until the Penguins really will look at him. So that's the only thing he has going for him is the fact that he has so much time. I think he could maybe turn out into a 6-7 guy in the NHL. But again, here we're at Tier 5. There's not many, if they do turn out to be NHLers, they're not going to be anything special unless they surprise us. Next up, we have Anthony Angelo. And honestly, this guy may be a sleeper here because he is only 22. He's a center. So again, remember what I was saying before about Linus Olin? Him being a center, he may get looked at differently because the Penguins will need a couple centers next year because I don't think they're going to sign Broussard. They may sign Sheahan, but it's unlikely. He's got 70 points in 102 college games throughout 3 seasons. So I'm really interested in him, what he's going to do this year. He's going to be playing in his first AHL season this year. So I think he may get looked at for maybe a 3rd or 4th line center spot next year. So I think he's a guy to look out for. Next up, we have Freddie Tiffels, and Freddie Tiffels is fast. If he does make the NHL in the future, it'll be because of his speed, and he has a good chance because the Penguins are all about that speed. So his speed will be tremendous in the lineup. So he could make it. He didn't have the greatest AHL year last year. He only got to play 12 games because he was spending most of his time in the ECHL. And if you guys don't know what the ECHL is, it's pretty much the AHL to the AHL. So it's like the AHL's AHL team. Are you guys with me? Anyways, but he did prove that he is too good to be there. He put 33 points in 44 games. He's going to be coming in for his sophomore AHL season. I think he's ready to prove that he is an AHLer. And once he proves that, I think the next step is to prove that he's an NHLer. So he's a player also to look out for. But don't forget, he is also 23. So time is ticking. This is the year you need to prove yourself. Because if not, there's other guys that are ready to take the spot. Then we have Nikita Pavlichev, 21-year-old center, who I think could be a 4th line center only because he stands out literally because he is 6'7". He is the tallest player we have from prospects to actual NHLers. So I think when he does go to training camp, he automatically stands out because of his height. He's described as a defensive center who's a good skater and uses his size to his advantage. And I mean, if he has speed on him at 6'7", that's a scary 4th line center because no one's going to be able to take the puck off of him. And if he knows how to use his size the right way, I think this guy could make the NHL just because of his size. Another advantage of being big here is because the Penguins may look at him differently. Being 6'7", they may just use him as a guy who could protect Crosby and Malkin. So he may get a couple NHL games just for that role alone. So I think things could be looking up for him just because of the size, like I said. Then we have defensemen Ryan Jones, Dane Burks, and Nicholas Almari. At this point, I'm pretty much guessing. So if I had to guess who from these 3 defensemen has the best chance of making the NHL, I will say Nicholas Almari because of his age. He is 20 years old. Meanwhile, Ryan Jones is 22 and Dane Burks is 23. So they can also make the NHL, but their time is running up. Meanwhile, Nicholas Amari has a good 4 or 5 years of growing and getting better. Then we have Thomas DePauli, who the Penguins signed 2 years ago. 2 years ago when he was 22, I thought he was going to be a solid NHLer. Only problem is that injuries slowed him down. Being 24 now, the fact that he's a center helps him because, like I said, the Penguins will be looking for centers. So he may be in the running for that, but injuries have slowed him down. He needs to have a really, he needs to prove it this year in the AHL. It'll be his 3rd season in the AHL. He needs to prove that he's an NHL player, and if he doesn't prove it this year, I just don't see him making the team in the future. And then finally, we have Juuso Riikola, who the Penguins actually just signed this year, like 2 months ago. He is a 24-year-old defenseman coming from Finland. He'll be playing his 1st year in the AHL. I think, honestly, I see him as a depth guy in the future. I don't think he'll make the team ever. I think he'll just be a guy who, when there's injuries, he'll be the 1st guy up or the 2nd guy up. He'll be one of those guys because he is a solid guy. I saw some highlights from him, and he could get the job done. I just don't see him being a future guy on the Penguins. But I could see him definitely making the team if there's injuries and stuff, like as a depth guy. And then finally, tier 6, we have everyone else. This is pretty much everyone that I didn't mention because I can't sit here and talk about every single Penguins prospect. So if you guys actually have any questions on why I didn't mention certain guys, you can actually leave it in the comments and I'll let you guys know why I didn't put them in one of my tiers. And yeah, I'll answer all the questions. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed me talking about the prospects for this long. And if you have any questions, like I said, leave them down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And one more thing before I go, Penguins preseason hockey starts tomorrow. I'm so excited. And yeah, for me, that's it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.